Hi everyone, my name is Mr. Thwala. I'm the founder of the Shepherd Foundation Resource Center. Welcome to Shepherd Foundation Corner. Today I'm humbled and I'm honored to have Dr. Muso. Dr. Muso is a game changer in our curriculum. So Dr. Muso, greet the audience and greet our viewers. Welcome to Bulawayo. Welcome going to Ziatun.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to come to Bulawayo. It's an honor to come on to Azia Tunga. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for being a guest at your show.
Thank you, Dr. Muso. All right, our vision at Shepherd Foundation Corner, we want to reach every student in Zimbabwe through digital classroom, because we realize through the realization that a classroom can be just in your hands, which is your cell phone. All right, today, without further ado, we want to revise with you. The question reads, to what extent was the abolition of slave trade driven more by humanitarian consideration? Remember, whenever you are given a question, you have to read that question many times so that we understand the question, so that we are able to approach that particular question. Let me take the question again. To what extent was the abolition of slave trade driven more by humanitarian considerations? Okay, Dr. Muso, what can you say about this question?
Okay, let's start by a question interpretation. Questions that come saying to what extent they are known as open phrased questions. They are also known as extended questions. Such questions, in most cases, they depict two sides of the question, the greater extent and also the lesser extent. So we'll be focusing on the social aspects that were played, that were done by humanitarians in this issue of a slave trade. Then on the other side now, we are going to look on the political, on the slave trade.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muso. Okay, so the approach here, so the motive behind abolition of slave trade has been a subject of debate, like you said, Dr. Muso. One school of thought is that slave trade was abolished on humanitarian grounds.
Yes.
But however, there are other schools of thought. For example, you talk of economic side, you also talk of political side. So today we are going to talk about the humanitarians, or actually we are going to talk about the humanitarian reasons on our affirmative side.
Yes.
So I believe, to understand, can you say, Dr. Muso?
So we can say that the humanitarians, they played a part in the abolishment, in the stopping of slave trade. Why? It is because of their messages. It is because of what they were doing, discouraging these activities of slave trade and slavery.
Alright, so thank you, Dr. Muso. So basically what we are saying here, these abolitionists include the likes of John Wesley. Maybe I can say something about John Wesley.
Yes.
John Wesley was the founder of the Methodist Church.
Yes.
So he started to go to Methodist Church in Britain and was preaching against the evils of slave trade.
Yes.
So in other words, this actually led to the end of slave trade. Remember, to abolish it means to put to an end.
Yes.
So John Wesley was preaching in his church that slave trade is bad because he was exposing the ill treatment, the injustice of slave trade to the people. So that on its own, it actually led to the abolishment of slave trade. We can as well talk about William Wilberforce. What can you say, Dr. Muso, about William Wilberforce?
He also played an important part in discouraging the activities of slave trade. Slave trade asifuni, slave trade imbi, slave trade yakaipa, slave trade atide. These were the messages that he preached to the people, and the people had to receive these messages. That on its own leading to the stopping of slave trade.
Well, to get on that, this guy, William Wilberforce, remember that he was also part of the British Parliament.
Yes.
That on its own, actually, he was an influential person, right? So he will take some of the petitions that were written by the people, take them straight to the right people.
Yes.
For example, we talk of the Queen in Britain. So we see that person, because of his position, he also played a crucial role to the abolishment of slave trade. Why? Because he was part of the Parliament. So we'll take the petitions straight to the Parliament, to the House of Lords in Britain. So that on its own, you can see it also played a great role to the abolishment of slavery. We can as well talk about Granville Sharp. What can you say about this other individual called Granville Sharp?
Granville Sharp also played a significant role. He also did what William Wilberforce was also doing, discouraging the activities of slave trade and slavery. So by so doing, again, we see slave trade and slavery stopping.
Okay, so another thing maybe I can add on Granville Sharp, he also helped a former slave by the name Straw.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
To take a legal route. Imagine, we'll start to organize slaves to take a legal route against their slave masters.
Yes.
That's when it's only, you see, they played a crucial role. Because of taking that legal route, that actually they enlightened the slaves. Then we can say, they played a very important role to the end of slave trade. And one of the things maybe that we can say about humanitarians, Dr. Muso, did you realize that most of them, they were evangelists?
Yes, they were spreading the gospel. Possibly I might add something on William Wilberforce. It is said by Dr. Miles Monroe, some of the parliamentarians, they were owning slaves. They were having these slaves. So when William Wilberforce was spreading this idea of stopping slave trade, we see that these parliamentarians, they were opposing him. But you know what? According to Dr. Miles Monroe, these parliamentarians, they were in the government, but today we remember none. But William Wilberforce, we remember him. Why? Because of what he did. So in life, what should you do? Do the correct thing. You always be remembered. You always be at people's mouths every day. We remember none of the parliamentarians, but we remember William Wilberforce.
So basically, that is a life lesson, that it doesn't matter that everyone is doing things wrong. You can do it right for yourself. So it's important in life to do things in a right way for yourself. So basically, most of the humanitarians were men of cloth who were committed to the work of God. So that's why they were preaching the principles of equality. They were preaching the principles of brotherhood. So good people, make sure that when you're writing this question, you give scholarly views. You talk about people like John Wesley, the founder of Methodist Church. You talk about Granville Sharp. You talk about William Wilberforce and their contribution to the end of slave trade. So it was through, basically, in conclusion, what we can say, it was through the wave of religious revival, which actually swept across Europe, particularly in Britain, that led to the abolishment of slave trade. Are we together, Dr. Muso? So, but however, maybe we can say this again. These men, like we say, that were men of cloth, they sacrificed.
Yes, they sacrificed a lot. They did a lot in trying to make sure that these activities were no longer going to continue spreading in Europe.
For example, some of them sacrificed their families.
Yes. It means that if that on its own that they were doing, they were opposed. They faced stiff resistance. In some instances, they faced death every day.
Some of them, they to move from Europe coming to Africa so that they come to and preach to Africans, to preach to slave masters, to end. Remember that they were slave masters in Africa. They came to the chiefs in Africa, and they actually they started to shed light on our chiefs to stop slave trade. Why? Because they were committed to do the work of God.
Certainly.
Not only that, another thing that they did, they even opened mission stations.
Certainly, so many mission stations they were opened in Zimbabwe, in Mashonaland, in Matabeleland, and also in other parts of Africa, where they to discourage the spread of slave trade.
They were discouraging the spread of slave trade. At the same time, they're not only doing that, they've been actually encouraged the African chiefs to sign anti-slavery treaties. That on its own, it is a crucial contribution to the end of slave trade. Even they opened mission stations, they taught Africans to trade on legitimate trade. So in our next video, we are going to talk about other factors that contributed I'll remember that whenever you're writing a history essay, we have to make sure that you balance your essay. So in our next audio, we're going to talk about economic reasons. We're also going to talk about political reasons. Thank you, Dr. Muso, for this wonderful lesson. I hope the learners, they're going to enjoy and they're going to spread the word to other learners. Thank you.
Thank you so much.